The Varkonian High Council's last stronghold, the shimmering bureaucratic paradise of Zarn Prime, was on the verge of total annihilation. Its pristine glass towers trembled under the relentless orbital bombardment of the Gorlak Imperium. Every inch of the battlefield was covered in debris, and the shrieks of distressed Varkonian tacticians echoed through the command center as they frantically recalculated their strategies for the 47th time that day. Grand Counselor Yip Yap stood in the middle of it all, his gangly green fingers gripping a tablet displaying an urgent spreadsheet update. His oversized head throbbed with stress as he watched their latest perfect counteroffensive crumble like a soggy breadstick. "This cannot be happening," Yip Yap shrieked. "According to our calculations, we had a 99.7% probability of a nearby..." Explosion cut him off, sending a chunk of debris sailing through the air. It narrowly missed his head before landing on a junior strategist's workstation, instantly shattering a century's worth of carefully curated battle analytics. "The Gorlaks do not respect probability," screamed one of his advisors. "They just keep punching things." As if on cue, the Gorlak warlord, Admiral Zornak the Ruthless, appeared on their main screen. He was a mountain of muscle, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with fangs the size of a Varkonian's forearm. His blood-red armor glistened menacingly as he let out a guttural laugh. "Pathetic Varkonians," he bellowed. "Your calculations mean nothing. Your logic is weak. We shall crush you as we have crushed every..." The signal cut out as another explosion rocked the command center. "Grand Counselor," a trembling aide whispered, We must activate the Terran clause." A hush fell over the room. Every Varkonian turned to Yip Yap with wide, terrified eyes. The Terran clause was their final, desperate failsafe, an ancient agreement signed centuries ago when humans had been discovered, examined, and immediately classified as too dangerous to contact unless absolutely necessary. Yip Yap gulped. "You mean, call upon the humans?" His voice quivered. "Are we certain it has come to this?" The command center shook as another explosion rattled the walls. "Yes," the aide confirmed. "It has come to this." Yip Yap inhaled deeply, squeezed his eyes shut, and reluctantly pressed the glowing red activation button labeled, "Summon Terran Military, warning, extreme unpredictability expected." There was a moment of silence. Then, from deep space, a rift in hyperspace crackled to life. A ship emerged, but instead of the sleek, pristine design of a galactic superpower's elite fighting force, what the Varkonians saw made them question every decision that had led to this moment. The USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance drifted into view, looking less like a warship and more like it had been assembled in a junkyard by someone with a welding torch and a grudge. Its hull was covered in scorch marks, duct tape repairs, and graffiti that read, "No step on Sneck," in big neon green letters. A huge bumper sticker on the side said, "If you can read this, you're in the blast zone." A collective gasp rippled through the Varkonian ranks. The ship clunked and sputtered before a boarding ramp extended. Smoke billowed from the entrance as the most absurd group of warriors in galactic history stepped out. Leading them was Commander Meatball McAllister, a rugged, sunglasses-wearing human with a beer in one hand and a cigar in the other. His uniform consisted of cargo shorts, combat boots, and a Hawaiian shirt decorated with explosions and bald eagles. His mustache alone exuded more authority than an entire Varkonian battalion. Behind him, Gunnery Sergeant Boom Boom Kowalski emerged, grinning maniacally as he lugged a backpack filled with enough explosives to make a moon disappear. Lieutenant Techie Martinez adjusted his aviator sunglasses, already hacking into nearby comms to see what chaos he could cause. Corporal Mad Dog Johnson, a sniper with an unlit cigar clenched between his teeth, casually stretched like he was getting ready for a round of golf instead of a galactic war. The Varkonians gawked. They had expected disciplined warriors. Instead, they got these creatures. Commander Meatball cracked his neck, popped open another beer, and took a swig. He surveyed the battlefield, nodded approvingly, and then turned to Yip Yap. "All right. Nerds, he said, grinning. Who needs some good old-fashioned American ass-kicking? The silence that followed was deafening. The Varkonians, beings of supreme logic and order, stood frozen in absolute horror as they processed what they had just summoned. Yip Yap's large, bulbous eyes twitched. I think there has been some mistake, he stammered, still gripping his tablet like it was a life raft. The Terran Clause was supposed to summon the finest warriors of your species. Meatball McAllister adjusted his sunglasses, downed the rest of his beer, and crushed the can against his forehead. Yeah, that's us. But you don't appear to be following any standard military protocol, Yip Yap sputtered, waving at Meatball's Hawaiian shirt, which proudly displayed a pattern of surfing T-Rexes holding machine guns. You are dressed like a civilian on vacation. Meatball glanced at his outfit and shrugged. That's 'cause war is a vacation, buddy. He turned to his crew. All right, boys, what's the situation? Before Yip Yap could provide a meticulous, data-heavy answer, a Gorlak plasma shell struck the base's outer wall, causing alarms to blare and sending panicked Varkonians scurrying in all directions. One of them ran headfirst into a bulkhead and collapsed instantly. Gunnery Sergeant Boom Boom Kowalski's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. Ooh, are we under attack already? That's adorable. He pulled a stick of dynamite out of his backpack, then seemed to reconsider and reached for something larger. All right, how big do we want to go? Yip Yap shrieked. What are you doing? We must adhere to protocol. Our battle strategists are still recalculating the next optimal response. Techie Martinez had already pulled out a small tablet and begun hacking into the Gorlak comms. Ha! They got their command channel wide open. Oh, this is too easy, the Varkonian analysts gasped. Wait, you're already inside their communication systems? We have been trying for years. Techie smirked. Yeah, well, I went to college and I'm an unrepentant bastard. Watch this. He pressed a button. Across the battlefield, the entire Gorlak army suddenly found their helmets and ship speakers blaring an excruciatingly loud rendition of Sweet Home Alabama on repeat. The Gorlaks froze mid-charge. Admiral Zornak, aboard his flagship, had just taken a massive bite out of a raw, still-moving alien steak when the speakers in his war room started blasting Big Wheel Keep on Turnin', Proud Mary Keep on Burnin' at max volume. He howled in rage, smashing a fist against his console. What in the name of blood and fire is this human sorcery? Back on the ground, the Gorlak warriors began to clutch their ears, snarling and roaring in confusion. It's working! One of the Varkonian tacticians gasped in disbelief. They're completely disoriented! Yip Yap grabbed his tablet and frantically tried to input this unforeseen variable. I don't understand. This was not in any of our simulations. The probability of success using outdated Terran musical disruption methods is 100%, baby, Meatball interrupted, grinning as he clapped Yip Yap on the back, nearly knocking the smaller alien over. Now, let's talk about fortifications. You guys booby-trap anything yet? Booby-trap? Yip Yap looked puzzled. Oh, hell. They really don't know how to fight, Mad Dog muttered, shaking his head as he pulled a fresh cigar from his ammo pouch. Meatball cracked his knuckles. Boom Boom, get to work. Mad Dog, find a sniper perch. Techie, keep these ugly bastards entertained. I'm gonna make us some real defenses. Before the Varkonians could object, the humans scattered, moving with terrifying efficiency despite their complete disregard for formal strategy. Boom Boom giggled to himself as he began rigging every possible surface with explosives. Hey, everything's a landmine now. Mad Dog climbed to the top of a ruined watchtower, set up his sniper rifle, and took a casual puff from his cigar. All right, let's see which one of these ugly sons of bitches has the dumbest face. Techie, still laughing to himself, hijacked the Gorlak command channel again and replaced all their urgent battlefield transmissions with the sound of an air horn blasting on a loop. Meatball, meanwhile, took one look at the Varkonian bases, pitiful defenses, and sighed. All right, this is embarrassing. He walked over to a weapons cache, grabbed several crates of Varkonian plasma rifles, and promptly duct-taped them together to make a mega-gun. Then, he built a makeshift turret out of a broken forklift and a stolen Gorlak cannon. One of the Varkonian engineers watched in mute horror. That will never work. Meatball jumped onto the turret, aimed at the incoming Gorlak war beasts, and fired. The resulting explosion sent several tons of alien metal, rock, and unfortunate Gorlaks flying into the stratosphere. Meatball gave the stunned engineer a thumbs up. "Say what now?" Admiral Zornak was livid. His soldiers, his mighty, bloodthirsty Gorlak warriors, were in chaos. Some were still stumbling around with their hands over their ears, trying to escape the relentless onslaught of human music. Others had fallen victim to absurdly simple traps. Pits labeled "free treasure" that led to nowhere, tripwires attached to buckets of green paint, and decoy battle plans covered in glitter. "This makes no sense!" Zornak roared. He grabbed one of his lieutenants and shook him violently. "How are they winning?" The lieutenant, his face smeared with green paint, trembled. "Sir, the humans, they don't follow any patterns. They just do things. They fight like madmen." Zornak bared his fangs. "Then we shall crush them with brute force. Deploy the planet cracker bomb." A hush fell over the bridge. Sir." One of the technicians hesitantly raised a hand. We may have a problem." Zornak's eye twitched. "What now?" The technician gulped. It's the humans, sir. They stole the bomb." Zornak blinked. "What?" The technician pointed to the main screen, which zoomed in to show Meatball McAllister standing atop a captured Gorlak transport, holding a very large red button. Meatball grinned and raised a megaphone. "Yo, Big Z, you dropped something," Zornak could only watch in horror as the entirety of the planet cracker bomb was now affixed to the front of the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance. And the humans were currently duct-taping a booster rocket to it. Yip Yap, still clutching his tablet, stared in mute shock. That was supposed to be our doom. Meatball slung an arm around his shoulders. "Nah, buddy, that's our victory. Torpedo now." Before Zornak could even process what was happening, Meatball gave a thumbs up to "boom, boom, boom, boom," grinning ear to ear, pressed the button. The USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance fired the bomb directly at the Gorlak fleet. Zornak had only 1 second to scream, and then everything exploded. The explosion that followed was not just big. It was the kind of explosion that future civilizations would speak about in hushed, reverent tones. If there had been a historian on site, they would have named it the Great Gorlak Detonation and written an entire book on how one moment of sheer human absurdity had redefined intergalactic warfare. From the surface of Zarn Prime, Grand Counselor Yip Yap and the remaining Varkonians watched in horror and awe as a blinding light engulfed the Gorlak flagship, vaporizing entire chunks of their once mighty fleet. Shockwaves rippled through space, sending smaller vessels tumbling like tin cans in a hurricane. "By the algorithms of logic," one Varkonian whispered, clutching his data tablet like it was a sacred relic. They actually did it." Yip Yap, mouth agape, could only stare as a transmission from the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance crackled through the speakers. Meatball McAllister's voice rang out, cheerful as ever. "Hey nerds, you're welcome. That should clear out your Gorlak problem. For now, so what's next?" Yip Yap massaged his temples. "Next?" he croaked. "Next? You just detonated one of the most powerful bombs in the galaxy. Do you have any idea what you have done?" There was a pause. Then Meatball's voice came back, completely unbothered. "Yeah, we won." A second, much angrier transmission broke through the static. Admiral Zornak's face appeared on the screen, battered, bruised, and, most importantly, still alive. His armor was singed, his flagship a smoldering wreck in the ew. Background: but his rage burned hotter than the remnants of his fleet. "You insolent flesh creatures!" Zornak bellowed, flecks of spittle flying from his massive jaws. "I will tear your planet apart with my bare hands." "Oh, come on, Big Z," Meatball taunted. "That was barely a nuke. You still got some ships." "Left! Quit whining!" Zornak let out a guttural scream that sounded like a war horn being strangled by a rabid bear. "I will not be humiliated like this! Summon every remaining warship to my position!" "I want their bones for my throne." "You know," Techie Martinez cut in, munching on what sounded like a bag of chips. "If I were you, I'd be less concerned about our bones and more concerned about the fact that your flagship's entire security system just got hacked." Zornak blinked. "My what?" The transmission cut out just as every light on his ship flickered red. Klaxons blared and every door suddenly locked. A robotic voice chimed through the intercom. "Warning, self-destruct sequence initiated. Please proceed to the nearest escape pod, or accept your inevitable obliteration. Thank you for choosing Gorlick Imperium Engineering." Zornak turned slowly toward his bridge crew. "How?" The technicians, now drenched in panicked sweat, could only stare at the main screen, where Techie's smug face reappeared. "Honestly, dude, you guys really need better passwords. Blood God 123? Come on, amateur hour." Before Zornak could issue another death threat, the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance blasted its engines and peeled away, leaving the last remnants of the Gorlak fleet scrambling for escape. Yip Yap, still trying to process the absolute insanity he had just witnessed, turned to Meatball, who had slung an arm around him like they were old drinking buddies. "All right, my little spreadsheet goblin," Meatball said. "We did our part. Now we're taking this party on the road." Yip Yap stiffened. What? What do you mean on the road?" Meatball's grin widened. "Buddy, we just humiliated the Gorlak Imperium. They're gonna come at us with everything they got. And if we're gonna keep having this much fun, we need bigger guns." He cracked his knuckles. "We're gonna steal us a Gorlak warship." Yip Yap felt his soul leave his body. Aboard the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance, the humans were already celebrating in a way that baffled the Varkonian survivors. The ship's main deck had transformed into something resembling a frat house gone. Supernova. Country music blasted over the speakers. Marines were shotgunning beers in zero gravity. Techie had set up a projection screen and was now playing a montage of Gorlak soldiers slipping on banana peels, courtesy of Boom Boom's strategically placed prank mines. Grand Counselor Yip Yap was in the middle of it all, gripping his head in existential crisis as he tried to understand how these lunatics had just pulled off what generations of Varkonian strategists had deemed mathematically impossible. "We need a plan," he groaned, rubbing his temples. "Nah," Meatball said, cracking open a fresh beer. "Plans are for people who suck at improvising. How do you intend to steal a warship without a plan?" "Easy," Meatball said. "We're gonna walk up to the Gorlaks and take one," Yip Yap wheezed. "You cannot simply take a warship." Meatball gestured to the remains of the Gorlak fleet. "Why not? They never locked their doors last time." Yip Yap opened his mouth, then closed it. He needed more data to argue against this level of lunacy. "All right, listen up, team," Meatball turned to his crew. "We're gonna hit the Gorlak scrapyard, where they store all their busted warships. Once we get in, we find the biggest, nastiest ship we can, hijack it, and turn it into our biggest, nastiest ship." Boom Boom nodded. "Can I blow stuff up?" "That's literally your whole job." "Sweet." Techie leaned back in his chair. "How do we infiltrate the scrapyard without being detected?" Meatball smirked. "Oh, that part's easy. We're gonna disguise ourselves." A hush fell over the room. Then Mad Dog snorted. "Let me get this straight. You want to sneak into a Gorlak scrapyard, steal a warship, and your grand plan is disguises?" Meatball spread his arms. "Yeah." Boom Boom looked skeptical. "What kind of disguises we talking here? Stealth suits? Holographic camouflage?" "Nah," Meatball said, rummaging through a crate. "We're gonna pretend to be Gorlaks." Another silence. Techie rubbed his temples. Okay, I gotta ask, how exactly do you plan on pulling that off? Meatball pulled out a bucket of green paint, a set of fake tusks, and an oversized pair of Gorlak shoulder pads. Boom, he said. Problem solved. Yip Yap, witnessing this, finally collapsed onto the floor. Hours later, the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance floated above a massive Gorlak scrapyard, a sprawling junkyard of half-destroyed warships, discarded mechs, and broken battle cruisers. Gorlak scavengers patrolled the perimeter, completely unaware of the group of very convincing Gorlaks approaching the entrance. Meatball, now green and wearing the most absurdly oversized shoulder pads in history, stomped forward and grunted in the deepest, dumbest voice possible. "Me Gorlak, me here for ship fixin'. Where biggest warship?" The actual Gorlak guard squinted. "You look weird." Meatball flexed. "Me have disease, big muscle disease." The guard hesitated. Then Boom Boom, also painted green and holding a box, labeled explosives, not explosives, leaned in and nodded solemnly. "Yeah, it's real tragic," the guard sighed. "Fine, just don't break anything." Meatball grinned. "Oh, buddy, we're about to break everything." And with that, the most chaotic heist in galactic history began. The Gorlak scrapyard stretched across the surface of the desolate moon like a mechanical graveyard, filled with towering, rusted husks of once great warships, shattered mechs, and enough discarded weapons to start several small planetary conflicts. The air smelled of scorched metal and burnt oil, a scent that to most beings would signal danger, but to the crew of the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance, it smelled like opportunity. Commander Meatball McAllister stomped forward in his extremely unconvincing Gorlak disguise, his face smeared with splotchy green paint, 2 oversized plastic tusks duct-taped to his jaw, and a set of Gorlak shoulder pads that were clearly about 3 sizes too big. His entire strategy rested on one crucial detail. Gorlaks were not smart. Behind him, Gunnery Sergeant Boom Boom Kowalski carried a suspiciously labeled crate marked "Explosives, not explosives," painted the same uneven green as the rest of the team. Corporal Mad Dog Johnson, also haphazardly green and carrying a fake cigar made of rolled-up combat gauze, grunted in a way he hoped sounded intimidating. Lieutenant Techie Martinez had simply worn a Gorlak helmet to cover his face and let Meatball do all the talking. At the entrance to the scrapyard, a massive, heavily armored Gorlak gate guard stood, eyeing them with an expression that hovered somewhere between suspicion and brain damage. "Me, Gorlak," Meatball grunted in what he imagined was a convincing deep voice. "Me here for, warship fixin'." The Gorlak guard blinked slowly. "You here for what now?" Meatball gestured vaguely behind him. "Big ship, need fix. Me have big fixing team." The guard squinted. "You talk funny." Meatball nodded sagely. "Yes, me have brain injury from too much war. Very glorious. Many bones crushed." The Gorlak considered this. It did sound like something that would happen in the Imperium. Finally, he gave a slow, approving grunt and stepped aside. "Yeah, all right. Just don't touch the Overlord-class dreadnought. That one's for the High Command." Meatball tried not to grin. "Oh, buddy, we're touching that ship first." They stomped. Inside the scrapyard, moving past piles of wreckage, inactive battle mechs, and decommissioned plasma turrets. The deeper they went, the more impressive the wreckage became. It wasn't long before they saw it. The Overlord-class dreadnought. It was the largest, meanest-looking warship any of them had ever seen, easily 4 times the size of the USS Kentucky Fried Vengeance. Bristling with plasma cannons, missile silos, and reinforced armor plating thicker than the skull of a Gorlak warlord, it was exactly what they needed. Boom Boom whistled. "Damn, she's a beauty." Techie smirked. "Gorlak fleet's gonna be real mad when they find out we just repoed their flagship." Meatball rubbed his hands together. "All right, nerds, let's steal us a warship." The plan, if it could be called that, was simple. Techie would hack the ship's controls. Boom Boom would plant some distractions, read a ridiculous number of explosives around the scrapyard, and Mad Dog would find a good vantage point to keep watch. Unfortunately, the plan immediately hit a minor snag. Boss? Techie called from the ship's command console. We got a problem. Meatball turned. What kind of problem? Techie jabbed a finger at the screen, which displayed a critical system lock message in angry red letters. This ship has a biometric security system. Needs a Gorlak officer to unlock it. Meatball cracked his knuckles. All right, no problem. We just need a Gorlak officer. Mad Dog adjusted his fake cigar. You mean kidnap one? Meatball grinned. Exactly. Boom Boom perked up. Oh, are we finally doing a kidnapping? Hell yeah. Let's go! Before anyone could say otherwise, Boom Boom sprinted off. Meatball blinked. Should we be worried about thwack? A loud, extremely pained Gorlak grunt echoed from behind a pile of wreckage, followed by the sound of something very large and very heavy being dragged. A moment later, Boom Boom reappeared, casually, dragging an unconscious Gorlak officer by one leg. Got one. Yip Yap, who had been following them this entire time, clutched his head. You just, how? Boom Boom shrugged. He looked at me funny. Techie wasted no time. He pressed the Gorlak officer's giant unconscious hand onto the console's scanner. The critical system lock message disappeared. Techie cracked his knuckles. And that is how you commit Grand Theft Starship. As soon as the system unlocked, the ship hummed to life. Consoles lit up. Engines rumbled. External weapons rotated into position. Meatball grabbed the intercom and grinned. All hands to battle stations. This is our ship now. The moment the ship roared to life, the scrapyard's alarm systems exploded into action. Klaxons blared. Sirens howled. Automated security turrets activated, and most importantly, a lot of very, very angry Gorlaks started running toward the dreadnought. Yip Yap shrieked. They know! They know! We're all going to die! Meatball rolled his shoulders. Nah, we're gonna be fine. Yip Yap flailed. How can you possibly say that? Before he could finish, everything exploded. Boom Boom grinned maniacally as a series of very well-placed explosives detonated across the scrapyard. Towers collapsed. Fuel depots ignited. Several decommissioned war mechs somehow got flung into the air. Yeah, baby! Boom Boom does it again! The demolitions expert cackled as another explosion sent Gorlak scrambling for cover. Inside the ship, Techie fired up the engines. All right, we're ready to go, but we got a lot of heavy weapons pointed at us. Meatball took the captain's chair and smirked. That's fine. We got bigger weapons. Mad Dog, already positioned at a gunnery station, cracked his knuckles. Say the word, boss. Meatball pointed at the largest group of incoming Gorlaks. Light 'em up. The dreadnought's weapon systems unleashed hell. Laser cannons roared to life, reducing barricades to molten slag. Missiles shrieked through the scrapyard, blowing apart everything in their path. One unfortunate Gorlak patrol got vaporized so quickly that even their ghosts looked confused. As the Overlord-class dreadnought lifted off, the few surviving Gorlaks could only watch in horror as their own ship, one of their most powerful war vessels, was hijacked by a bunch of lunatic humans who were actively shotgunning beers while doing it. From the bridge, Meatball leaned back in his chair, feet propped up on the console. All right, boys, where to next? Yip Yap collapsed onto the floor. I hate you all, Techie smirked. Don't worry, buddy. You'll get used to it. Boom Boom chugged a beer and burped. Best heist ever. Meatball grinned. And the best part? We ain't even started the real fight yet. The massive stolen warship, now under new and extremely irresponsible management, roared into hyperspace, leaving the remains of the scrapyard and a very traumatized Gorlak empire far behind. The galaxy had no idea what was coming next.